No, I'm gonna type, but thank you. I know I looked for one.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee meeting at CB11. My name is Jason Villanueva, and I'm the chair of the committee. The meeting is called to order at 6:40 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Angel Muscane, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. As it relates to Zoom or online service, the chat should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record when recognized. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. The same logic applies online. Roll call. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Members, when I call your name, please answer present. Adem Briha.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch. Present. Jessica Elliott is absent. Pascal Hano is absent. Jewel Jones.
Present.
Nelson Orama.
Present.
Beverly Pabon.
Present.
Derek Stampone.
Present.
Betty Torres is absent. Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Candy Vivas Vasquez. We have one.
Excellent. So now we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand. Excellent. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Meeting minutes. We didn't have a meeting last month. We were able to adjourn. But the previous meeting, we had a meeting and I believe we drafted the minutes. I don't know if we got them out.
Oh, we have today.
Excellent. So the minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand. Excellent. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. The minutes from tonight's meeting are being taken by our vice chair, Mr. Kenneth Crouch. Announcements. Any announcements? Excellent. Informational updates.
So I did add one thing to the printed agenda in regards to the Ray Harlem development. That's the development above the National Black Theater. That nice new red building, 125th and 5th Avenue. There was an article in the recent NIMBY article, I guess, it's not really a newspaper, regarding the new 21-story mixed-use building located between 125th and 126th Street and Madison and 5th Avenue. The building includes 222 mixed income apartments, 27,000 square feet of cultural space owned and operated by the National Black Theater, and commercial spaces on the ground and second floors. NBT's new facilities will feature 2 theaters, rehearsal rooms, offices, classrooms, and a set building shop. The interior fit out for the National Black Theater is expected to begin in fall of 2025 with a grand opening scheduled for 2027. The project is the first to utilize the city's visual and performing VPA bonus, created to support Harlem's cultural organizations while encouraging mixed income development along 125th Street.
That's awesome. Did they owe us an update?
You can call them for an update.
Oh, excellent. So you all heard that. I'm going to call for an update from the National Black Theater, particularly for our hiring and contracting requests. Angel, can you provide an update, BCF, if you don't mind?
Sure. So just, I had an opportunity to speak with a representative from the Educational Construction Fund in regards to the long-stalled project at 96th and 2nd Avenue, the Co-op Tech project, which we were supposed to get a residential tower and facilities for 3 high schools, in addition to a new Marsh Brothers playground. The project's been stalled for a while. Did have a conversation. I can't share too many details other than to say that the developer that was associated with the project has pulled out. It's Avalon Bay. ECF is still committed to the project, but is in the process of identifying a new developer to fulfill the commitments from that rezoning in 2017. They're not yet at liberty to share who, they're progressing in negotiations with, but just that they're seeking another development. They have to be a big one because it's a massive building.
But thank you, Angel, for the update, because I do know that board members have been expressing concern for ECF, those on youth and education. You could coordinate this communication with the chair on that. I will definitely have a conversation with her as well, because I've been advised that there is concerns related to some of the schools that were slated to move to this location. So, it's in our interest to work with ECF as a partner and to assist them in our best foot effort as to what we were able to come to terms with the Euro. So I'll leave it. We can ask a question, but it was an update.
No, I know it's an update, but I know that at one time prior to that, they had wanted to use monies that have been designated already for the community or potentially building a school. Remember how the funding was a certain way? Did they mention anything about that, or that would be part of their update, you think?
No, we didn't talk about that,
Okay.
that piece. Like, we were pretty adamant here, the last time we got an update, that we didn't want any of that kind of stuff
Okay.
going on.
Okay, good.
So no, that wasn't mentioned during
All
the
right,
conversation.
thank you.
Excellent. Any other updates from the committee? Thank you, Angel. We can move on. Presentations. So we have a pre-certification update for the Metropolitan Transit Authority's rezoning application for 125th and Lexington Avenue. MTA's Transit Orientated Development Team.
Joe O'Donnell's on the call and providing the presentation. Or was it? He was on the call. John Kirshner and Paul Januszewski.
Januszewski, I'll help you.
I got close.
Yeah, it's close.
Has the application been submitted already?
No, it hasn't been certified.
Okay, all right. Just so you know, when it does to the committee members, that's when our 60-day clock will start. So if we can be proactive reviewing this, I promise you it'll be a lot less cumbersome when it's time for the vote. Thank you. I'm sorry. You can take it away for us.
Thanks, folks. Joe, are you going to start us off?
I think Joe fell off.
Oh, Joe, drop.
I'll kick us off, John.
Go for it.
Introduce myself because we've been here before, but I am relatively new to the project. I'm Paul Januszewski. I'm the Vice President in Transit Oriented Development at the MTA. Here with John Kirshner, who's the project manager. We have been here before with this project, I think in Matthew Pietras, who used to work with us, presented this last November or December. There's been a couple changes to the project since then that John is going to walk us through. Primarily, the main changes were from when we started planning this at the governor, in the governor's budget last year. They got rid of the 12 FAR residential requirement in New York. So we're going to be now seeking C611. Is that what it is? I'm sorry.
A C611 district.
Yeah, which
Yes.
would get us up to 15 FAR rather than 12. So it's 3 additional FAR. And also with the City of Yes passing since we were here, there's been some changes related to that. Other than those, which John will walk us through, it's the same project that was presented to you earlier, but we wanted to come back to discuss the changes and answer any additional questions. So I'll turn it over to John. He's going to walk us through the presentation. We're going to do it over again as if in case some of you weren't here last time, but he'll go quickly through it so we can answer questions.
Great. All right, folks. Thanks for having us. Are you able to see the screen or my screen here?
Yes.
Great. And so my name's John. Nice to meet you. I'm taking over for Matthew on this project. I know you guys have probably seen some of this before, and as Paul said, this is an update of the same presentation that you've seen. So it shouldn't look too new, hopefully, but we'll go through it all. So starting out here is a quick overview of the future Second Avenue Subway Phase 2 alignment. We're planning to bring 3 new stations up East Harlem, going in and turning left on 124th Street. You can see the 3 stations highlighted here in yellow: 106th Street Station, 116th Street Station, and 125th Street Station. You can see next to the 125th Street Station in red is Lot 20. This is the MTA lot at 125th and Lexington that is kind of the development site for this project and the impetus of the rezoning. Along with this development, that's going to be above one of the entrances of the 125th Street Station. We're expecting that, this new line can serve up to 300,000 daily riders and would save, up to 20 minutes in a commute down to Midtown. I'll also just point out the intersection of the existing MTA lines that you can see on the screen. So highlighted in green, intersecting the 125th Street Station, we have I think it's an outline of the Lexington Avenue line, the 456 train under Lexington, which is a little misplaced on the screen. And then we also have, of course, the Harlem 125th Street Metro North Station as well. So quite a big transit hub. And so why are we doing this, right? Like, why are we doing developments above our new stations? Our goal is to integrate transit as we build new stations, to have our new facilities fit in a bit more with the context, with the neighborhood around it, right? So learning from what we did in Second Avenue Subway Phase 1, where we had, quite bulky ancillary buildings that weren't very activated, we wanted to make sure that we opened up the entrances a lot more. We made them a lot bigger along 125th Street. What you're seeing on the right is a rendering of what it could look like at 125th Street and Park next to the Metro North Station. We're proposing something quite similar at the 125th and Lexington Avenue site, although I will say neither of these facilities have been fully designed. So we have quite some time until the final aesthetic is designed. But generally you're seeing double height floors, much bigger openings, more light coming in. And then in addition to our entrances and our developments above, we're trying to incorporate some more active ground floor uses to break up the ancillary facilities and to provide retail and community facility space so it doesn't feel like you're kind of next to a huge wall. And in this early planning process, we're also, working on making sure the properties have the right entitlements. We're working on making sure our future ancillary sites can support development above it. And, we're also trying to make sure that as we build on this new real estate for these new subway entrances, that we can put a little bit of that money we spend on that real estate back into the subway system with this new development above. So here you're going to see the rezoning area. This is block 1773 in Manhattan, between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue. Lot 20 is the site that MTA owns. It's the site that was highlighted in red on a couple slides ago. And to the right, we have 2 other lots that we do not control, but are on the block and part of the rezoning area. Lot 27 is owned by a private owner, and Lot 33 is owned by the city, and it's currently an FDNY firehouse. And I think I've said this, but Lot 20 is going to be a future entrance and ancillary facility, a vent plant, essentially, to help vent the air, because the subway will be pretty far beneath the ground. And here's the image of what the sites look like today. As you guys are aware, I'm sure, these sites have been vacant for, about a decade. This was the site of the former Pathmark grocery store. And now they're both being used the MTA lot is now vacant, but being used as a construction area for Second Avenue Subway Phase 2. And I believe the developer on Lot 27 is starting to move forward with their project. And these are the different perspectives we have here. And as I was mentioning of kind of what we're thinking Lot 20 could look like, here's an axonometric perspective of how the different subway lines are integrated with the development and where the entrances might pop out. So we have highlighted right kind of in the center of the screen, entrance. That's the new entrance we're going to see on the corner of 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. The new subway entrance will connect to both the 456 line under Lexington and the Q train, which is much deeper down. And then it'll also have that vent facility or the ancillary facility behind on 124th Street and Lexington Avenue. And then above, we have a highlight of a building. We don't know what that's necessarily going to look like. Moving over towards the Metro North that you see on the screen, we also have, you can see the connection to the Park Avenue entrance as well. So we're planning to have two major entrances that'll both be quite large and open with retail and community facility built in and residential above. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but a quick overview of the previous rezonings that have happened in the area. Obviously, in 2008, there was 125th Street rezoning that mapped the contextual districts and the special 125th Street zoning district. And then in 2017, the East Harlem Corridors Special District was put into effect, and that actually created the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict around the Metro North station that mapped the C64 at the time, the highest density in the area around that transit hub. And we have the site, the rezoning area or the former Pathmark site circled in red here. That area was intentionally excluded from this kind of Park Avenue hub portion of the rezoning, from what we understand, to try to preserve that Pathmark grocery store, but of course it's no longer there today. And as Paul mentioned, last year they passed the 2025 New York State budget, which removed the floor area ratio cap. And along with that, New York City passed City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, which created the R11 and the R11 zoning districts. And, of course, is trying to spur more housing development and affordable housing development across the city. Looking quickly at the existing zoning on the site. So you can see in black our rezoning area, the MTA lot at 125th and Lexington, highlighted with the MTA logo. Looking at the surrounding districts, we can see the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict of the special 125th Street district highlighted in blue. That's the area around 125th Street and Park that allowed at the time the highest densities around the transit hub and has the tower regulations as well. And then highlighted in green is portions of the East Harlem Corridors district that in some areas, allows for taller base heights, and in some areas also reduces the commercial or retail requirements for buildings that we have heard might, inhibit some residential development because those requirements are a bit too high. So taking all these surrounding rezonings into consideration, we're proposing some similar efforts, or some similar rules rather, at our site. So we had moved from a C44D to a C611 district. As Paul said, that's an equivalent of an R11 district. So that would be 12 FAR of market rate housing and 15 FAR up to of qualifying affordable housing. I'm going to skip quickly to the bottom bullet point here because I think it's worth noting that with the rezoning as typical in the city today, we would be mapping MIH to the area. So it would essentially be a 15 FAR residential building that would be allowed. That option for 12 with just market rate, wouldn't really be possible. And at the request of the council member, we are proposing to map two MIH options rather. So that would be option 1, which is 25% of units at 60% AMI, with that special portion as well with 40% AMI. And then option 3, deep affordability, which is 20% of all units priced at about 40% AMI. So going back up to subdistrict B on the screen, the area that's kind of highlighted in the blue and the green that you're seeing is essentially what subdistrict B would be. So we would be mapping a new special 125th Street district subdistrict that would have pretty similar rules to the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict. So it would have that base height that's special along 125th Street. That's a little bit lowered for the minimum base heights. And then we would propose to have a base height of 125 feet, which we feel is a little more contextual with the underlying base heights that are a bit higher at 155 feet, but are closer to some of the base heights that are around 85 feet set by the East Harlem corridors in some areas. As I mentioned earlier, we're also proposing to reduce the commercial FAR slightly. So right now, the commercial or non-residential FAR requirement is 2.0. And we'd be proposing to reduce that to 1.5 in the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict and in the subdistrict B, which would, we hope, allow a little bit more residential development in the area and keep some of these vacant sites from being vacant as well. Tower regulations would be applied as well under C611 district. It's a pretty similar district to C64 in the Park Avenue Hub district. It's important to note as well that because 125th Street lines up with one of LaGuardia's runways, the zoning resolution has a special provision that limits the height for this site. So we're estimating that it's about 400 feet. That would need to be confirmed by a surveyor at the time of development, but we think the height limit is around 400 feet. And here's just a quick summary of what we think would happen by, increasing the density to match the level of transit service in the area. We're expecting with the R11 district that we could get up to 684 units, of which 171 could be affordable units under MIH option 1. And to do this, we'd be seeking the rezoning, the zoning map amendment, and the zoning text amendment, kind of going through those bullet points I described on the previous slide. And here's a quick side-by-side of what it might look like today without the rezoning and what it could look like after the rezoning. So today, there's an inclusionary housing designated area that kind of went away with the city of Yes. And essentially, you would be permitted to do market rate development on the entirety of the site. You can see too here in the gray, the MTA entrance on 125th and Lexington. That's below the blue area that you're seeing. And then there's the much taller planned ancillary facility. The yellow is retail spaces, and those spaces would be incorporated into the development and managed by the developer, essentially. And you can see on 124th, beneath the gray ancillary facility, there's actually room for a double height space that we're planning to provide in the ancillary facility. So it could have room for a community space or something like, or community facility rather, or something like that. And then looking to the right, it gets a bit taller to that 400-foot height we're talking about with FAA. And we are expecting up to 684 units, of which 171 would be affordable under MIH option 1. So as part of this rezoning effort, we've conducted an environmental analysis that will be published soon upon certification, I believe. And for the environmental analysis, we're analyzing a much larger building envelope than we actually expect to be built. So what you're seeing on the left in the salmon is really this kind of huge envelope of where a building could theoretically be, parts of anywhere in that envelope. We're really not anticipating that to happen. It's also worth noting that we're analyzing a height that's up to 550 feet. And that is something that we think is extreme. So our rezoning proposal would still keep the height limit set by the FAA flight path. It would be about 400 feet. But we're analyzing a case where theoretically a developer might try to override zoning with a BSA variance or a special permit and try to get a special FAA approval to modify their flight path and allow this extra height. And that's just really because it's the most conservative approach, but we're really not expecting that to happen. And so on the right, you can see what more on the lines of what we think will be developed on the site. So you're seeing the MTA site with the ancillary facility and the C611 building on the right in the blue. And then on the left, we're showing the building plans for lot 27. As I alluded to earlier, it looks like lot 27 is getting started with their construction. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but we have seen that they've filed building plans to develop under the existing R8A zoning. And so what you're seeing in blue on the left reflects what their filed plans look like. And then here's just a quick overview of the project timeline. So we're running right up to May 19th. That's next Monday, I believe, where we are on the docket for certification. And then public review will continue through the end of the year. We're also working on that coordination with the Second Avenue Subway ancillary facility and entrance design. And we're thinking that, or right now we're scheduled to have the Second Avenue Subway open, I believe in late 2032. And kind of right when the Second Avenue Subway opens to the public is when we would probably start, or wanting the developer to start constructing the transit-oriented development above. So I'll just end here with a quick summary of what we're seeking to do and an image of our proposed development. As I said earlier, we're seeking a rezoning to a C611. We would create a new sub-district within the special 125th Street district. We would map MAH options 1 and option 3, deep affordability. We would lower the commercial requirements slightly, which is similar to the special East Harlem district or East Harlem corridors district, excuse me. And we would change the base height along Park Avenue to 125 feet to match some areas of the special East Harlem corridor, or to more closely match them rather, and to match subdistrict B as well. And we're expecting about 684 units and 171 affordable under MAH option 1. That I think we're at the end of the presentation. Thank you guys.
Excellent job. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and thanks everybody. Apologies, Chair and Angel. Somehow I got kicked out in the beginning, so I had to sign back in under my own private email because apparently, since I was elevated as a panelist, I couldn't join through the regular link. So anyway, I appreciate John and Paul jumping right in and tackling this without the benefit of a little bit of a preamble and teeing up from me. So I appreciate y'all flexibility. And Chair, obviously, for those of the folks on the call or the Zoom who may not know me, Joe O'Donnell, Director of Strategic Initiatives for MTA Construction and Development. I've been up here in the East Harlem neighborhood for close to 10 years now, since we moved on with 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2, but have expanded to do other projects as well, like Park Avenue Viaduct, some of the bridge work and things like that. So known to most of you all on this committee, and probably some of the public as well that are on the call, but certainly happy to kick it back to you guys for any questions that you might have on this. We wanted to bring this to you guys to give you a heads up and sort of walk you through the nuances and the change from what we updated you on last December. As John mentioned and alluded to, we hope to go, or we plan to go to certification on Monday, which then, once we get into ULURP, would come back to you all for an official review period. So we wanted to make sure that you were briefed on it before that, and then happy to engage with you as you see.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe, for your presentation, and to the team at MTA. Really appreciate you guys coming to terms with our efforts as a board with ensuring pre-ULURP reviews, which has been a big outcry of this board to the public sector. So again, thank you, MTA. Just some house cleaning for the members. As stated, this pre-ULURP, they're pretty much telling you it's coming May 19th. As typical practice, we have 60 days at that point. So it's fair to say we will be meeting in July to take a position. So in an effort to streamline practice and process, which we've already developed and created, I'm going to ask that we RFI, which is pretty where you can make your questions verbally, it's your right as a member, but I would also ask you to submit your questions to me formally in writing so that we could be proactive in submitting the questions to MTA prior to the full board review of the ULURP. Last piece before I turn it over to the committee for questions is we have this presentation. Not yet, so if you do not mind, MTA, at your earliest convenience, you can send it over.
Yeah, I'll send it over right after.
I really appreciate it, and so then that way we're gonna we're gonna do a community impact study, something we do with all ULURPs with George James, and he will consult and provide some advisement for some concerns that those of us that aren't familiar with all the technical requirements that concern with zoning. George is very instrumental in clarifying, as well as our staff liaison, Angel. So I say that to alleviate some stress, but it doesn't take away the work that we need to do over the next 60 days. So that being said, I will now turn it over to the members if there's any questions relative to the presentation that was put forth. Nilsa.
Hello all, thank you for your presentation. I just wanna confirm that the two options that are mentioned will be the 25%, 60% of AMI, that includes the 10% at 40 AMI, and then, or just 20% at 40 AMI, is that correct?
That's correct. And those were the options that were suggested to us by Councilmember Ayala. Yeah.
So you're not considering any other options? You're just sticking to the ones that were suggested by Diana?
Yeah,
Councilwoman.
that's what we've done so far. We're going to move forward with this in our application process, I think, given the timeline. But I'm not sure that we're fully closed off to hearing opinions about other possible options.
Okay, I just wanted to just make sure that my notes were correct. Thank you.
And to Nelson's point, to the, I can't speak for Nelson, I can definitely speak for the board. I will advise MTA, housing is the #1 concern of this district. And not just affordable housing, but deep affordable housing. So you will have some contention with the market rate housing that's being proposed of over 684 units and only 170 of which would be considered to be affordable. Again, that's not a position or a stance, it's just a advisement to let you be as proactive as possible with your group and your development team to try to work with our district, in particular for our existing constituents, right? The area median income in Harlem is dismal in comparison to the state of New York. So we will be advocating for that, just to be honest. So Nilsa made a great point. Is there any other questions for the committee? Adam?
No.
Oh, Beverly. Thank you.
Yes, I got the floor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thanks again, MTA, for the presentation. I really appreciate all the information that you do share with us. My question is regarding the access to the queue line. From Lexington Avenue, it's going all the way to Park Avenue for the access there also?
So you'll be able to access the queue from both Lex and 125th as well as Park and 125th, yeah.
Okay, but you won't be able to access Park Avenue from Park Avenue to 4, 5, and 6.
Technically, I think
Yeah.
technically you'd be able to go down to the,
Across the
Queue.
platform.
stories
and up.
down to go
Okay,
to the queue platform, and then you'd have to go back up to the 4, 5, 6. So it wouldn't be,
okay.
directly below the street. It would be a couple levels down.
Oh, all right then. Thank you. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Similar to Fulton Street, Joe? Kind of like that?
Yeah, similar. One of the things that we've heard, and as you all know a lot too, and Congressman Espaillat has sort of been a proponent of a direct pathway from 125th to or from Park Avenue to Lex. One of the concerns that we have and some of the other folks in the community have is, we this is a vibrant commercial corridor at 125th, and we feel it's only going to be more vibrant with the increased access and some of the commercial options that we're going to be able to help bring. One of the lessons learned from phase 1 is we don't want dead space as part of our structures, whether it's the ancillary structure or the entrance structure. So they're going to be activated with community and or commercial space. So, we want people to enjoy and utilize those spaces. So keeping them down in the subway doesn't help in that regard. So
Sounds exciting. Derek, and then we'll go to George.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm curious about how you have the timeline where the transit-oriented development happens after the opening of the Second Avenue subway. What exactly does that mean regarding the ancillary buildings and the entrances, and then I guess not necessarily having the building over it complete? Like, what exactly would that end up looking like during that time period?
I don't know if the TOD folks want to take that, but essentially what will happen is, we will build out all of the infrastructure and the entrance and ancillary structures for our subway system. And then at that point, or, close to the completion of that, I'm sure we'll already be engaged with third-party developers who may be interested in developing that site further, to build the overbuild. But I don't know if the TOD folks, you probably can say it more succinctly or articulately than I as to how that'll happen. But we need, obviously, first and foremost, we need to get the subway infrastructure and our elements complete, and then it'll be fit for the overbuild.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be. We don't have it fully planned out. Of course, it's a bit out there, but out there in time. I mean, but I'm sure we'll try to get in as soon as we can to minimize the overall length of construction, and not have, construction there around a new station as much as we can.
I
And
would just
I'm
add that go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, and I'm not sure what we need to do regarding satisfying federal requirements, because they have some control. They helped fund part of this site, so we might need to open the station completely before we can do the development after. We have to work with the
Right.
FTA.
I was just going to add that we're working now with the Second Avenue Subway team to make sure that their construction supports the building above it. So that should save some time in construction of the building, but we need to wait for them to finish their work before the residential building starts rising above it.
But your point too, not only do we want to minimize the impact on construction, but I think it also dovetails into the earlier point that, Jason was making about the density of affordable housing in this development, and I apologies again if it was touched on in the lead up to the presentation because I missed it, but this is going to be used or utilized to fund a portion, or at least pay back a portion of the funding for this, for the overall Second Avenue subway project. So that's why there is some of the market rate housing that we're including in this, or how we're structuring it or looking at it too, because we're trying to maximize from an MTA standpoint, our value here, the value position that we do have in order to help fund all of the not all of the Second Avenue subway here, but a portion of it. So that's some of the consideration that goes into the breakdown of affordable versus market rate as well. So my point being is we're anxious to get the third party developer up and going and built. So we want to get it going.
Any other questions from the committee? Prior to going to George, just another recommendation for MTA, if not already done, I would request that you do a public community input survey of the sort for the design development that you've been talking about with the ancillary units, just so that way the district feels involved. I know you have the facility that's on 125th and Lexington, but again, if it's something that's practical, I've seen it with other private and public developers in the district, and it allowed a lot of constituents to be more understanding and, for lack of a better word, forgiving for the inconvenience of the projects that get built within the area. Because I do understand that housing is being built and the train is being here to service the district, but our position is simple. We've given up land, we've given up space and opportunity to ensure that, the best project can be brought forth to the district. So it's just a recommendation.
No, absolutely, Jason. And just to that point too, and I don't want to, monopolize the time here, but we have a meeting tomorrow night, if you're not already aware, with the Franklin Plaza Association residents. We expect several hundred people there, to give them an update on contract one that's currently underway. We're anticipating in the next couple of weeks doing a design update for the folks in the 116th Street station area to talk a little bit about what we anticipate some of the design changes for 116th Street, to get their feedback on those design changes. So as this project evolves and we get closer to the work at 125th Street and letting out the contracts for that work, again, we'll be doing a lot more public wide discussions of these topics. So definitely on our mind and on our radar.
Excellent, Joe. If you could, when you send the deck, just give us that summary. That'd be excellent to share with our board at our next meeting. Mr. James.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple of years ago, some of you may remember that the applicant for Lot 27 came to this committee to essentially for a comment on the fresh store certification that they got in the building. And we learned that Lot 27 and Lot 20 are all part of the same zoning lot. And I guess my question for the MTA is that this is a substantial upzoning that impacts Lot 27 as well. And I know you said that they are starting their construction process, but do they, I guess my question is this, do they suddenly have a lot more floor area? Or is the MTA reserving all of the excess floor area that would go to lot 27 for development on lot 20?
It is, should I,
Don or Paul,
am I unmuted? No. It is currently a merged zoning lot. That was something that was required at the time MTA was purchasing it. The seller required it of us. We do expect to unmerge them at some point in the future, but currently they will benefit from the rezoning this in the same way that lot 20 benefited.
I guess my point is that they're going to, you're not reserving the excess development rights that were created on lot
associated
27.
with 20. No, but what happened, I believe, is that a lot of the rights from the current zoned parcel were transferred to lot 27.
Yes, that's true.
Prior to us purchasing it.
Yep.
So we have very little on 20 right now, other than what's needed for the MTA floor area. So we plan on using what's associated with our zoning lot. I mean, our property. They have indicated to us that they're proceeding under existing zoning, I think because they have the 485X deadline they're grandfathered into, but
421A.
421A.
Yes, they're 421A, that's right.
But I can't speak to, I don't know whether, as far as we know, they're proceeding with that.
Okay, all right. I understand. I mean, for the committee, just to think about is that we calculated at the time that their lot 27 was, for its footprint, developed at slightly under 10 FAR based on its footprint lot. And this would allow it another 5 FAR, which is substantially 50% bigger building. I don't know. And also relieve the height restrictions. Right now, lot 27 is a 160-foot height limited building. And it's going to be next to a tower on lot 20. I'm just pointing out that that this rezoning may very well have the applicant go back and change their design for lot 27 because they could do a lot more.
It's possible. I mean, they have to evaluate the benefit of 421A versus the additional floor area. So that will be up to them.
Thank you, George, for that point of information.
We would, sorry, I think it might be also worth noting that were they to develop under the larger rezoning, their base height would be lower than what's currently proposed. So from the street, under the proposed zoning, it might feel a little bit smaller. Of course, it's a much bigger building and all that taken, of course, but just pointing that out as well. The base height would be, I think, 40 feet lower than what they're proposing.
Okay. What is your base height?
125. Did you say there was 165? I'm sorry if I'm getting this math wrong.
So 160 is the height of the building. So their base height is I'm looking at a drawing. It's 5 stories less than that, so it's about 100. So I don't have the. So yeah, I mean I hear what you're saying. It's just that they would have a lot more options, and they are probably examining them right now.
Yeah, I would expect so.
Options too. Derek.
I don't know if this is a question that you can answer. Is it required that lot 20 and lot 27 be rezoned together in this way? Why can't just lot 20 be considered for the zoning?
I think generally city planning prefers to, rezone a full block. I don't know if Jose is interested in, I think Jose from TCP is on the line, if he's interested in commenting on that, but I think that is related to direction from city planning, not from MTA.
We'll follow us. Thank you. If there's no more other questions from the committee, I find that the discussion has been very informative, and there's homework that needs to be done by all parties, including MTA. And I would like you to get our questions in as soon as possible, preferably before full board, just so that we can start this conversation, because as we know, these ULIPs come and there'll be a lot of concern at the time of the vote, right? So the more informed we are prior to then, the better. So that said, again, thank you, MTA, for coming and presenting. Joe, as always, you're exemplary as a leader for that group. And George, I need not say what you do for us, so.
I appreciate y'all having us and giving us the opportunity. I'll shoot this deck over, and obviously after you have a chance to sit with it and as you go through your review process, if we can help with anything in terms of, clearing things up or walking through anything, obviously you know how to get a hold of me, and we're happy to reconvene as needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Have a great evening. So moving on to old business, it's just so that we could possibly close. Potential demolition of a 442 and 444 East 119th Street. A constituent brought this concern to us. We looked into it. And they're within their right, so.
Mr. B, I guess it's on the call.
Oh, excellent. So Mr. B would like to speak towards this, this concern.
Sure.
We're definitely open to listen, to continuing to listen.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Am I able to share my screen?
I'm gonna promote you and you will be able to in 1 second.
Thank you.
Ken.
Sure. Should be good now. Go ahead, Mr. D, guys. Did he just?
Did she move over to?
Go ahead, you can begin your presentation or your comments.
You're muted, sir.
I'm just trying to find the share screen function. Oh, share. Here we go. All right. Thank you.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm just a resident that lives adjacent to the property. First time presenting to a community board. Just gathered some of the information. As the gentleman mentioned, I do understand that it's within their right. They purchased the parish is a more than 100-year-old structure. They have in DOB now. I saw that they have filed for a demolition, but that filing was withdrawn. In 2026, Catholic Charities used to run programs through the church. Last year, Sharon Cowan, who also owns a property on 3rd Avenue and 109th Street, the picture of that property is on the top, purchased it for $5 million. Conversions are common. They're often converted into affordable housing, as mentioned, is a deep need. It's also done as residential, single-family homes, event spaces. I don't deny that the conversions can be difficult, but they're possible. There have been about 16 properties that have done this type of conversion, mostly in the last couple of years, mostly in Brooklyn and in downtown Manhattan. Currently, from what I understand, what I could find is that the buyer is in litigation with the church that sold it. They're from what I could see from public record is that they want the church to have to get the demolition permit before closing on the sale. For some reason or another, which I don't have visibility to, that demolition permit is going through some stalls. And I guess my only request is just I've called DOB, I've called the city council. They've all referred me to the community board is just wanting to document just some sort of opposition. so that it's known that, folks have talked about it and see value in the church's presence there. It's significant contribution to the cultural dynamic of the area and the value of having the space. That's all I have. Thank you.
Excellent. And I mean, again, those of us over now already express my adamant conflict with this project. But just as a point of reference to those that may be familiar or unfamiliar, we build housing. You can stack housing on housing. I'm speaking as a builder. You rip down a church or a cathedral or a house of worship, it's never going back. Right? That's a statistical, analytical position that I can take and prove if anyone wants to debate it. So that's why we want to hear this, right? In the spirit of landmarking and preserving spaces within our district. I wouldn't be focused and fixed so much on the religious context as it is to the structure of the building. That being said, if you don't mind, could you provide the information that you just presented to us through email?
Absolutely.
And I would ask our vice chair to reach out to Catholic Charities and begin a dialogue. So that way they can express, and it's in their right to share, it's in their right, I'm also all about, our First and our Fourth Amendment rights. So, we can have a conversation and explore the position that's being taken from what you're doing your review publicly. That said, and this may interest you or not publicly, but it's something that I shared recently with my pastor that came out of City of Yes, and that's there is a new law that's coming out for faith-based housing organizations, right? And it's just something that I think that those that are committed to their faiths to pretty much review and analyze, no different than what you're presenting. So that could be a conversation that's switching up between Catholics that we're not familiar with. So again, I'm happy you presented because we would have closed the issue had you not shown today. So any questions from the committee? Ken?
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I think it was really comprehensive, and we would be happy to assist in a useful way. I did have a quick question. I know you mentioned there's currently litigation over the between the buyer and I guess the developer. I know you'll send us the slide deck, but could you point me to where either if it's a civil case or it's like a state case, do you know where you found some of that publicly available information? Because I'd also like to dig around and look and see what's going on and maybe share it for the benefit of the committee and members.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share what I was able to find. It is from what I found so the website was the New York State Unified Court System, and it seems to be in the New York County Supreme Court, if that makes sense.
That does. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. And I'll let you know what those communications with either Catholic Charities or the diocese looks like, whoever is the redevelopment party. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I just one last. I mean, really, and I'm learning, and I hope to get more involved. But really, it's just making sure that these transactions don't happen in silos, right? There's things that happen in between, and it was withdrawn for a reason. And if any way that we can sort of contribute to sort of at least getting community input, I'm happy to help lead that charge or participate in however I can.
Well, I recommend that you probably coordinate a campaign with those that are in support of the position that you're presenting to the board. It tends to be a lot more, for lack of a better word, advocate orientated when members from the district can form a group that are expressing this type of concern. Because again, I can't speak for the particular institution, but I'm pretty certain that prior to whatever was done, and we went through this a few years ago with Children's Aid, that there is a formal and/or professional process that's happened, especially when you label Catholic Charities. Very familiar with that organization, and it's unfortunate what's happening, but it's what the public wants and majority rules.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hi. Excellent. All right. Thank you. No more questions, no more concerns. Is there Any new business from the members? Excellent. Roll call and then adjourn.
Dan Brehart. Kenneth Cross. Present. Jessica Elliott is absent. Pascal Hunter was absent. Joe Jones.
Here.
Elsa Rama.
Here.
Beverly Pavone.
Present.
Derek Stampone.
Present.
Vinnie Torres is absent. Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Andy Vasquez is absent. Yeah.
Thank you. Meeting's adjourned at 7:34. Look at that, less than an hour. See you.